What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing great. Today I just wanted to bring you guys a quick review on the Arctic Cooling Accelero Mono Plus. This is a fantastic graphics card cooler. As you guys are about to see, I'm going to show you how to install it and if it does any good at all. Alright, you guys stay tuned. So let me go ahead and jump straight into the specifications here, guys. This is a cooler that is rated at 200 watts TDP, so it's got plenty of cooling power. It's got 5 6mm copper heat pipes, 43 aluminum fins on the heatsink, 120mm fan, which ranges from between 400 to 1500 RPM. And it weighs around 348 grams. And this is the thermal adhesive that is included with this cooler. You will be needing this for mounting your heat sinks onto the VRAM and the VRMs. It is a good quality, but I'm going to go ahead and skip this glue and use something else. You also get a Molex adapter with a 3-pin and 4-pin fan headers. Here you have your small heat sinks for VRMs and VRAM, which are all aluminum. There's different type of heat sinks here depending on your PCB layout, your VRM configuration, and how everything is set up on the graphics card on the board itself. So all these here come handy. You guys may want to keep these, even if you don't use them. Keep them just in case in the future you may need one of them or a couple of them. I also wanted to mention that this is one of the most affordable VGA coolers that you can find out there in the market. This thing runs for about $35 US at most retailers. Alright guys, so one of the first things that we're going to be needing to do here before we can install this cooler is removing this plate. You do that by unscrewing the left and the right screw that you see at the center by the copper base plate. For the fan, you get two type of connectors. You get a 3-pin and a 4-pin connector. I usually remove the included thermal paste that I get with this type of coolers, but in this case I won't be doing that because this is actually a high quality thermal paste. This is MX4, so there will be no need to remove the thermal paste here. And this here is your retention plate. This is what we will be using to mount the GPU cooler to the graphics card itself. It's a multi-configuration plate, so you can pretty much install it on almost every or any graphics card out there in the market right now. One thing I wanted to point out real quick is that this thing feels like it's quality. It feels like it's very well built, and when you look at this thing, the copper itself, the base, the fins, the fan, even the plastic shroud, everything looks like it's good quality. It looks like Arctic cooler didn't cheap out on its construction. They didn't cut corners or anything like that. and I've had experience with this particular cooler here in the past, so I can tell you, before you guys see any testing, that this thing works. This thing does what it's supposed to do, what RT Cooling claims it does. But still, we're gonna move ahead, and I'm gonna show you guys, how well this thing performs, of course. And these brackets here that you get with the cooler, we won't be needing them. We won't be using them here at all. And here you're looking at your spacers that go between the mounting bracket and the PCB itself. This here is my Radeon HD 7870 graphics card. I made a video a while back about this particular graphics card here and how it loves to run hot. Easily this thing will reach 85, 86 Celsius under a normal gaming load or whatever. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'm going to be posting a link on the screen so you guys can go check that video out. Now this card here, the HD 7870, has a rated TDP of 120 watts, but this thing loves to run hot easily. Like I said, it'll reach 86 degrees. So we're gonna see if our Accelero Mono Plus here can keep this thing cool at all. And I figure since it runs so hot, this is the perfect candidate to put this cooler to the test. Another thing you want to do, guys, before you move ahead with installing the cooler, you want to remove the 4 main screws around the GPU and set the back plate on top of them. Kind of eyeball line up the holes with the PCB holes to make sure that you know which holes you have to use for your particular graphics card, because like I said, different manufacturers may have different configurations. So you want to make sure that you don't install this thing sideways or kind of crooked. So just do that first. Included with the Mono Plus, you have your own thermal glue, but I use the Extreme Cool glue that you can find on eBay. This stuff works pretty well. It's certainly real good for a couple of years that I've been using it. So I trust this thing. I know it performs very well. So I think I will be using this instead of the included RT Cooling glue. I'm not exactly sure how many grams you get per tube, but this stuff here has plenty. And one thing I will recommend is that you put the cap back on after each application. I know it's kind of annoying to have to do it every single time you apply it per heatsink, but it will last you longer that way. That way the glue does not dry up so fast. And as far as how to apply this stuff, I recommend if you have a little plastic spatula or even a credit card or some kind of plastic that has a flat surface, what I would do is put a little, literally a uncooked rice grain size in the middle of the heatsink and spread it from inside, from right in the center towards the outside, and just go around the heatsink that way and just put a thin layer of this glue on it. That's really all you need, and then place it on top of your VRM or VRAM module and just put a little pressure on the heatsink to spread the glue evenly on the surface, and that's all you need. Now here I encountered a little problem between the MOSFET and one of the capacitors. I didn't have enough space there to squeeze in a heatsink, so I even tried using one of my copper heatsinks that I have laying around here, a smaller one, but it just didn't look right. You know, it just seemed awkward or odd there. So I also even tried a different kind of heatsink that came included with the Accelero Mono Plus, but it was just, you know, it didn't fit right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go with one of the smaller heat sinks included in the package, and I'm going to have to kind of center it there between all 4 of the VRMs, and they'll just have to share that heat sink for now. Now it's time to add the spacers for between the PCB and the cooler itself. Make sure that you check for clearance. What I would do is just put the bracket right over the GPU there, and look at the card from the side, see what the clearance is, if the bracket is actually touching the spacer. You know, if they seem flush there with each other. You don't want to leave too much space between the spacer and the actual mounting bracket, because that's just going to distort the bracket itself, and you could possibly, you know, put too much pressure on the GPU. So you want to make sure that you have the correct size spacer there, so make sure to double check that. Okay, so now it's time to mount the mounting bracket onto the cooler itself. This, as you can see there on the copper base, you have 3 holes, 3 on each side of the copper base there, for you can slide the mounting bracket, really for clearance. That's all that is. So we're going to be using the lowest clearance because we want the cooler to be sitting a little lower, closer to the PCI Express slot. That way it doesn't bump into the side of into the side window of my case. Now here's a little tip for you guys. Right before you mount the cooler, just go ahead and use 2 screws first, one of each side, one at the top, one at the bottom, just kind of, you know, crisscross from each other. The reason why you want to start with 2 screws is because it'll make it a lot easier to mount. First you start with whichever, the top or the bottom. Start with that screw, find the hole, make sure that you get it going in the hole there, screw it in a little bit, and then find your way with the other one. Kind of, you're gonna have to kind of look to the side there, between the cooler and the card, the PCB, to see where the hole is and make sure that it goes in there correctly, and then screw that second screw, and then you can, you go from there. You start with the other 2. Here you want to just take your time, go easy, don't rush this process here. If you feel that it's not lined up correctly, don't rush it. Try not to detach the card from the cooler at this point. If you need to, slide it a little bit, so that you can line up the holes with the screws, but try not to detach it, because then you have to either respread the thermal paste, or you're going to have to reapply it. If you detach the card from the cooler, you're going to create bubbles, air bubbles in there. If you don't reapply new thermal paste or spread the old thermal paste. So yeah, don't do that. Just slide it a little bit, line it up correctly, and you're good to go. When you screw this thing in, make sure that you don't tighten up the screws all the way. Just make them barely reach, so you feel that you're getting some kind of resistance there. And then once you do that with all 4, kind of crisscross, go back and forth from left to right, top and bottom, and just make them reach. You don't have to put too much pressure or tighten them up too tight, just enough so that you know that the cooler is secured to the card. And there you have it. We got the cooler installed. The card now feels a lot heavier than with the stock cooler. Don't worry about that wire there. I'm going to be putting some shrink tubing on there to make it look a little better. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing in the system and see what kind of temperatures we get. One of the first things that I like to do here is to do a physical temperature test. I like to make sure that my VRMs are not running too hot after installing the heat sinks, just to make sure that everything's within specs. And also keep in mind that at this time, as I'm testing this, the graphics card is under load. I am running Valley Benchmark. After about 30 minutes of Valley Benchmark just going in a loop, the graphics card has reached a peak temperature of 68 Celsius, and it keeps fluctuating between 65, 64, 68. So it is within that, that margin there. Great temperatures compared to 80, 85, 86 using the stock cooler. So yeah. There you have it. This is a great cooler. It is doing what it's supposed to do. Keep in mind that your results may vary depending on your the graphics card that you're using, depending whether you're overclocking or not, and depending also on what type of case you have. Do you have enough ventilation? So there's multiple things, multiple aspects that may influence the type of results that you get as individually. But overall, this will be a better choice over most stock coolers that are out there. Running the card cooler means that I got a little bit of headroom for overclocking, and that's exactly what I did. I managed to overclock the core by 200 megahertz and the memory by 300 megahertz, and these are the results that I got right here. So yeah. It's going to make a difference. I mean, obviously I am overclocking, so yeah, it's going to give better results in gaming, just synthetic benchmarks, etc. So yeah, I love this cooler. It's a great investment. Also it'll extend the life of your hardware. So also keep in mind clearance, guys. Adding this cooler to this graphics card added another 4 centimeters in height. So make sure you have plenty of clearance between the side panel and your graphics card if you want to add this cooler to one of your GPUs. Anyway, that's all I got for now, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit like, subscribe. If you didn't like the video for whatever reason, you know what to do. Also, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any feedback for me, that would be great. I appreciate that. So that's it. You guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one.